हेलो गाइस, मेरा ये रिकॉर्डेड सेशन है। लाइव सेशन देखने के लिए मेरे चैनल पे जा सकते हो, लेटेस्ट लाइव सेशन।
If you are present, can you please note a small remark that I will definitely help you during the doubt clearing session better. Can you please raise this question? ये जो दो बार आप टाइप कर लिया था, you wrote one sentence, sir repeat again बोल के ये लिख दिया और next point, last point बोल के लिख दिया बेटा, right? Probably you are asking me about the third interaction, right? Can you please raise this as your question during the doubts clearing session so that I can elaborate on this? Okay, right? Moving down, friends, to the topic on surface defects. In the surface defects, the first one that is being taken up is grain boundaries. First defect being talked about is grain boundaries. It is right. Grain boundaries are formed during solidification. Grain boundaries are formed during solidification. How this grain boundary formation takes place, right? And what exactly will be the characteristics of grain boundaries? That type of information is now being studied by us. That is, let me try to tell you. I will quite connected to solidification chapter of metal casting subject. Let us assume that I am trying to show here an imaginary mold, a fictitious mold that is being shown. The mold is formed with molten metal. Assume that this mold is formed with the molten metal here. Now, when the molten metal is poured into a mold, you know, in almost all the metal casting processes, mold is at a low temperature than the molten metal. There are metal casting processes in which the molds are initially preheated to some high temperature than room temperature. However, whatever temperature, whether you use a preheated mold or you use a mold at room temperature, in all metal casting processes, mold is always at a lower temperature than the molten metal itself. So when the hot molten metal is the mold, the moment when it touches the mold walls, mold wall is at lower temperature, molten metal is at high temperature, therefore the molten metal suffers a chilling effect. Due to the chilling effect, immediate solidification takes place near about the mold walls. Therefore, first solidification that takes place is near about the mold walls. Then gradually, the amount of solidified metal keeps on increasing from the mold wall towards the center of the mold. Solidification process begins at the mold wall and it proceeds. How this grain boundary formation takes place, right? And what exactly will be the characteristics of grain boundary? In the surface defect, the first one that is being taken up is grain boundaries. First defect being talked about is grain boundaries. It is right. Grain boundaries are formed during solidification. grain boundaries are formed during solidification, how this grain boundary formation takes place, right? And what exactly will be the characteristics of grain boundaries? That type of information is now being studied by us. That is, let me try to tell you, I will try to connect it to solidification chapter of metal casting subject. Let us assume that I am trying to show here an imaginary mold, a fictitious mold that is being shown. The mold is poured with molten metal. Assume that this mold is poured with a molten metal here. Now, when the molten metal is poured into a mold, you know, in almost all the metal casting processes, mold is at a lower temperature than the molten metal. There are metal casting processes in which the molds are initially preheated to some high temperature than room temperature. However, whatever temperature, whether you use a preheated mold or you use a mold at room temperature, in all metal casting processes, mold is always at a lower temperature than the molten metal itself. So when the hot molten metal is poured into the mold, the moment when it touches the mold walls, mold wall is at a lower temperature, molten metal is at a high temperature, therefore the molten metal suffers a chilling effect. Due to the chilling effect, immediate solidification takes place here about the mold walls. Therefore, first solidification that takes place is here about the mold walls. Then gradually, the amount of solidified metal keeps on increasing from the mold wall towards the center of the mold. Solidification first begins at the mold wall and it proceeds towards the center of the mold. This solid, which is growing in the molten metal as a function of time and temperature, this solid which is growing in the molten metal as a function of time and temperature is what is called as dendrite. A solid which grows as a function of time and temperature. A solid which grows in molten metal as a function of time and temperature. Is called as molten temperature is what is called as dendrite. The solid which grows as a function of time and temperature. The solid which grows in molten metal as a function of time and temperature is called as dendrite. Now, if you see how this dendritic growth will be, the dendrite will grow like a random body. Dendrite will grow like a random body, not only in one direction, but in multiple different directions. It will keep on developing its radial arms, radial branches. Dendrite will not grow in just one direction. Dendrite grows in multiple different directions. Each dendrite can develop its radial branches as well as sub branches like that. This is enlarged image of the dendrite.
अभी लाइटिंग कैसी लग रही है?
This is the microscopic image of the dendrite. This is enlarged image of the dendrite.
लाइटिंग कैसी लग रही है?
If you ask me a question, sir, why does the dendrite grow in multiple different directions? Answer is very simple. In a mold, there will not be any one direction of heat loss. There will be heat loss in multiple different directions. So in whichever the direction there is a temperature gradient, in that direction there will be growth of solid. So this random growth of dendrite is due to multiple directions of heat loss existing in the mold. Right? Now, if you see the size of the dendrite at different points, solidified metal keeps on increasing from the mold wall to its radial arms, radial branches. Dendrite will not grow in just one direction. Dendrite grows in multiple different directions. Each dendrite can develop its radial branches as well as sub branches like that. This is enlarged image of dendrite. This is the microscopic image of the dendrite. This is enlarged image of the dendrite. If you ask me a question, sir, why does the dendrite grow in multiple different directions? Answer is very simple. In a mold, there will not be any one direction of heat loss. There will be heat loss in multiple different directions. So in whichever the direction there is a temperature gradient, in that direction there will be growth of solid. So this random growth of dendrite is due to multiple directions of heat loss existing in the mold. Right? Now, if you see the size of the dendrite at different portions, at different cross sections, is not going to be the same. Somewhere the size is more, somewhere the size is less. Somewhere there are radial branches, somewhere there are no branches. Therefore, it is called as a randomly growing solid phase in molten metal. Let us write the definition. Write that. A dendrite is defined as 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 a randomly growing solid phase. A randomly growing solid phase in molten metal. A randomly growing solid phase in molten metal, comma, which grows as a function of time and temperature. Which grows as a function of time and temperature. Full stop. Right, friends? Now, so far as what we have seen is that when molten metal is poured into the mold, what exactly will happen? In metal casting process, you will study nucleus formation first takes place, then the nucleus gradually grows into bigger size. So solidification is always by nucleation and grain growth. Okay, हमारा teacher बोलते रहते हैं, right? Nucleus formation and growth. This growth, once it starts, that results in dendrite formation. And dendrite is a solid phase which grows in the molten metal as a function of time and temperature. It is not a systematically growing solid, it is a randomly growing solid phase. Alright, sir. Now I am asking you one question. When there is such a big mold, do you expect that there will be only one dendrite or there can be several dendrites from several walls? Yes? There can be several dendrites. When there can be several dendrites, out of them, all the dendrites are growing in their own random way, in multiple different directions. Don't we expect two randomly growing dendrites can always meet each other? When two randomly growing dendrites meet each other, उन दोनों के बीच में रहने वाला जो जंक्शन रहता है, that junction becomes grain boundary. That junction becomes grain boundary. So please write down. Grain boundary is defined as grain boundary is defined as the junction between two randomly growing dendrites. The junction between two randomly growing dendrites. Junction between two randomly growing dendrites. Right. So what is a grain boundary? Grain boundary is the junction between two randomly growing dendrites. Right. This is the definition that you get from metal casting discussion. All this discussion is from metal casting. Now here I am trying to show you a microstructure. Microstructures are addressed in metallurgy. In this microstructure, this portion which is black is what called a grain. This is a grain, another grain. And junction between these two grains is this yellow colored curved line, grain boundary. Junction between these two grains is this grain boundary. Junction between these two grains is this grain boundary. So from microstructures and metallurgy subject, you understand grain boundary is junction between two grains. From metal casting subject, you understand grain boundary is the junction between two dendrites. Now the same word, same phrase, grain boundary, has two definitions in two different subjects. Metal casting says grain boundary is the junction between two dendrites. Metallurgy says grain boundary is the junction between two grains. But what you should say when you are in interview? In interview, they ask sometimes a question. What is a grain? What is a dendrite? What is a crystal? This question is difficult to comprehend. But for those who have learned the subject systematically, बेटा, विजन बनाते बनाते जैसा हम आगे बढ़ेंगे सिलेबस में, तुम्हारा रास्ता बनेगा towards success. Success रास्ता बनेगा ही. Come on दोस्तों. Metal casting क्या बोलता है? Junction between two dendrites. Metallurgy बोलता है junction between two grains is a grain boundary. इसका मतलब है dendrite is same as a grain. ये वाला कंक्लूजन निकालना है. Junction between two dendrites में है. Junction between what is a grain? What is a dendrite? What is a crystal? This question is difficult to comprehend. But for those who have learned the subject systematically, बेटा, विजन बनाते बनाते जैसा हम आगे बढ़ेंगे सिलेबस में, तुम्हारा रास्ता बनेगा towards success. Success रास्ता बनेगा ही. Come on दोस्तों. Metal casting क्या बोलता है? Junction between two dendrites. Metallurgy बोलता है junction between two grains is a grain boundary. मतलब है dendrite is same as a grain. ये वाला कंक्लूजन निकालना है. Junction between two dendrites is grain boundary. Junction between two grains is grain boundary. It means what? From these two sentences you can conclude. Dendrite is same as a grain. Dendrite is same as a grain. You call it as a dendrite when you talk about solidification phenomenon. You call it as a grain when you discuss the microstructures. All right. Now, what is the grain? What is the crystal? That part of the discussion we will carry on next. Up to now, we understand dendrite is same as a grain. Right. Junction between two grains is called as a grain boundary. Next, we try to take up certain important characteristics of grain boundaries. Let us write here characteristics of grain boundaries. Characteristics of grain boundary. Let us write. Grain boundaries are regions of number one, orientation mismatch. Number two, grain boundaries are regions of high energy. Grain boundaries are next, regions of low melting point. Grain boundaries are regions of low melting point. Number four, grain boundaries are regions of heavy impurity concentration. Heavy impurity concentration. Grain boundaries are regions of heavy impurity concentration. And number five, grain boundaries are regions of amorphous nature. Amorphous nature. Grain boundaries are having these characteristics. Extensive technologies have been developed on the basis of these characteristics. Mechanical engineering students are supposed to know these important characteristics of grain boundaries. So we see here, grain boundaries are regions of orientation mismatch. बोलने का मतलब क्या है? Let me give you a simple understanding. Inside this grain, suppose left side grain, if you take any unit cells and their arrangement, probably all the unit cells will be aligned in one particular direction like that. All the unit cell surfaces will be aligned in one particular direction. Similarly, on the right side grain, also whatever the unit cells are there, all the unit cells are aligned in one particular direction. But the direction of alignment of unit cells in the right side grain and in the left side grain will not be the same. To understand this difference in orientation, friends, let me give you one more simple example. You crystal line of searching probability. Let me give you a simple understanding. Inside this grain, suppose left side grain, if you take any unit cells and their arrangement, probably all the unit cells will be aligned in one particular direction like that. All the unit cell surfaces will be aligned in one particular direction. Similarly, on the right side grain, also whatever the unit cells are there, all the unit cells are aligned in one particular direction. But the direction of alignment of unit cells in the right side grain and in the left side grain will not be the same. To understand this, difference in orientation, friends, let me give you one more simple example. I am sure every one of you
अच्छा, मैं नाश्ता करके स्टार्ट किया पढ़ा। अभी लाइटिंग कैसे दिख रही है? अभी मेरा चेहरा ज़्यादा क्लियर दिख रहा होगा, और वो इधर ज़्यादा लाइट, फिर इधर थोड़ा कम डार्क, ऐसा। अभी थोड़ा इवन लाइट स्प्रेड हो रहा होगा।
This is a grain nature. Grain boundaries are have these characteristics. Extensive technologies have been developed on the basis of these characteristics. Academic students are supposed to know these important characteristics of grain boundaries. So, inside this grain, suppose left side grain, if you take any unit cells and their arrangement, probably all the unit cells will be aligned in one particular direction like that. All the unit cell surfaces will be aligned or दो दीवार बोल के सब have seen. I'm sure every one of you must have seen this type of example in real life. But यहाँ पर जो मैं दिखा दे रहा हूँ, there are two walls. तुम्हारा घर में तुम्हारा रूम का दो दीवार बोल के समझ लो बेटा. Before plastering work is done, you know, in this wall, all bricks are aligned in one direction. Right? Before plastering work is done, all bricks are aligned in one particular direction. ये तो आपको आपका knowledge में रहता है. Now, if you see the right side wall, before plastering is done on this, in this wall also, all bricks are aligned in one direction. All bricks are aligned in one direction. ऐसा रहता है. Correct or not? Everywhere. If you take two walls of your room, in each wall, all bricks are aligned in one direction. Like that. All unit cells in one grain are aligned in one direction. If you see the right side wall, all bricks are aligned in one direction. In the right side grain, all unit cells are aligned in one direction. Now if you compare left side wall and right side wall, ये दोनों दीवारों में रहने वाला bricks का orientation अलग रहता है. Because the orientation of the bricks in these two walls is different. ये दोनों दीवारों का orientation अलग अलग आते हैं. Do you not understand the concept? तो जैसा यहाँ पर neighboring walls में, neighboring दीवार में रहने वाला bricks का orientation अलग अलग रहने से दोनों दीवारों का orientation अलग बन जाएगा. In the same way, because the right side grain and left side grain are having unit cells in different orientations, ये दोनों grains का orientation एक ही जैसा नहीं रहता, अलग अलग रहता है. जब दोनों grains का orientation अलग अलग रहता है तो क्या होता है सर? आइए बेटा, जब दोनों दीवारों का orientation अलग सा बन गया है, दोनों दीवारों का मिलन का जो जगह है, wherever they are meeting, wherever these two walls are meeting, there is a junction that is being formed. Similarly, since these two grains are in different orientations, a junction is being produced. That junction is called as grain boundary. So about the grain boundary, the right side grain orientation and the left side grain orientation will not be same. They are going to be different. Consisting of orientation mismatch. About the grain boundary, left side grain orientation, right side grain orientation will be different. So मैं क्या समझ लूँ सर यहाँ से? Come on बेटा, apply करो थोड़ा सा. When you apply, you understand. As long as within a grain, there is no change in the orientation. Therefore, आगे बढ़ने वाला dislocation movement को रोकने वाला कोई नहीं रहता है. So a dislocation under the action of external load, a dislocation can move easily from one location to another location, Within a grain, all unit cells का orientation alignment में रहने से dislocation आसान से आगे बढ़ सकते हैं up to grain boundary. But the moment when it comes to grain boundary, It cannot cross the grain boundary. Why not, sir?
पहले था जब मैं छोटा था तो, अभी नहीं है.
At grain boundary, come on, at grain boundary, orientation of the neighboring grain is different. The orientation फर्क आया, come on, बेटा. Do you now remember the concept of randomness? I was talking about lattice distortion, randomness in orientation of closed packed planes. When there is randomness in orientation of closed packed planes, movement of dislocations will stop. और बोलते बोला था ना. Now we correct. जहाँ पर orientation mismatch रहता है, जो dislocation इस grain में आगे बढ़ सका, it cannot enter into neighboring grain. So at the grain boundary, due to orientation mismatch, movement of dislocations will be stopped. So grain boundaries have the capability to stop the movement of dislocation. क्या बोल रहा है? Grain boundaries have the movement. क्या?
मेरे को डॉगी पालने का है, पेट बनाना है, लेकिन अभी जब जॉब करूँगा तब करूँगा.
To stop the movement of dislocations, sir. Grain boundaries have the capability to stop the movement of dislocations. बोल के जब समझ में आया पड़ेगा. जो साइंटिस्ट का जन्म हुआ. All and fetch. ये लोगों ने क्या किया? अरे बाप रे, अगर ग्रेन बाउंड्रीज के साथ ये ताकत है, मैं क्या करता हूँ? I will increase the number of grain boundaries per unit area. मैं कैसा भी करके किसी मटेरियल में रहने वाला number of grain boundaries को increase करता हूँ. Come on, friends. When I increase number of grain boundaries per unit area, what is happening? Coarse grain structure is getting converted into fine grain structure. Yes or no? Do you know what is the process called? It's called grain size refinement. What is it called? Grain size refinement means what? Converting coarse grain structure into fine grain structure. What happens by that? Number of grains and number of grain boundaries per unit area will increase. Come on, look at this. When number of grain boundaries increase, तो क्या होगा सर? जो dislocation यहाँ से यहाँ तक आगे बढ़ रहा था पहले, now the dislocation is stopped at this boundary itself. That means by increasing number of grain boundaries, what is it you are doing? You are increasing number of obstructions for movement of dislocation. So by converting coarse grain तो क्या होगा सर? जो डिस्लोकेशन यहाँ से यहाँ तक आगे बढ़ रहा था पहले, now the dislocation is stopped at this boundary itself. That means by increasing number of grain boundaries, what is it you are doing? You are increasing number of obstructions for movement of dislocation. So by converting coarse grain structure into fine grain structure, by increasing the number of grain boundaries, you are increasing. The number of obstructions to dislocation motion. अब दोबारा मंत्र तुम बोलो. When dislocation, when obstructions to dislocation movement is increased, come on friends. When obstructions to number of obstructions to movement of dislocations are increased, come on friends. Dislocation movement will be stopped. Effectively correct. When dislocation movement is stopped, what will happen? When dislocation movement is stopped, बोलो बेटा मंत्र क्या है? बोल दिया था पहले 20 बार 25 बार बोलना है. When dislocation movement is stopped, slipping is arrested, resistance to permanent deformation is increased, hence strength and hardness of metal is increased by grain size refinement. And slip 20 बार 25 बार बोलना है. When dislocation movement is stopped, slipping is arrested, resistance to permanent deformation is increased, hence strength and hardness of metal is increased. By grain size refinement. Fine grain structures will have, come on, fine grain structures will have more strength and hardness than coarse grain structures. Yes or no? Can you explain why? Because fine grain structures will have more number of grain boundaries. So what? Grain boundaries are what regions are orientation mismatch. इसी के वजह से डिस्लोकेशन मूवमेंट को रोकने से फाइन ग्रेन स्ट्रक्चर में ज्यादा स्ट्रेंथ और हार्डनेस मिलता है सर. Got the point? Now get to the next one. Sir, grain boundaries are regions of high energy. Why they are high energy regions? मुझे क्वेश्चन पूछा जाता है. Come on. At the grain boundary, two dendrites which are going in two different directions, they are going to meet each other. So where they meet each other, each dendrite exerts a force on the other. Because इनका growth होने का direction predominantly ऐसा है. तो लेकिन ये क्या करता? For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So when this dendrite tries to push it away, for wants of its own survival and growth, this dendrite resists. This dendrite pushes. This dendrite resists. So pushing, resisting means what? Action, reaction means what? Compulsive interaction बनता है junction में. So at the grain boundary, what type of interaction is there? At the grain boundary, there will be compressive influence. Due to the compressive influence, interatomic distance at grain boundary, interatomic distance at grain boundary becomes less than bond length. Interatomic distance at grain boundary becomes less than bond length because of this compressive influence. When interatomic distance at grain boundary becomes less than bond length, potential energy due to repulsion will increase. When atoms are at bond length distance, potential energy is minimum. If the bond length is disturbed, what means what? Compressive interaction बनता है junction. This dendrite pushes. This dendrite resists. So resisting means what? Action, reaction means what? Compressive interaction. Junction means. So at the grain boundary, what type of interaction will be there? At the grain boundary, there will be compressive influence. Due to the compressive influence, interatomic distance at grain boundary, interatomic distance. Distance at grain boundary becomes less than bond length. Interatomic distance at grain boundary becomes less than bond length because of this compressive influence. When interatomic distance at grain boundary becomes less than bond length, Potential energy due to repulsion will increase. When atoms are at bond length distance, potential energy is minimum. If the bond length is disturbed, if the distance between two atoms is decreased to below bond length, potential energy due to repulsion will increase. If the distance between two atoms is increased beyond bond length, potential energy due to attraction is increased. When atoms are at bond length, potential energy is minimum. Therefore, stability will come only when atoms are at bond length distance. Alright sir, लेकिन due to this compressive influence at the junction क्या होने वाला है? Interatomic distance at grain boundary becomes less than bond length. When interatomic distance at grain boundary becomes less than bond length, interatomic distance potential energy due to repulsion will increase. That is the reason why grain boundaries are high energy regions. मैं सुनना चाहता हूँ ना, high energy region बोले तो stable region है या unstable? Unstable, very good. अनस्टेबल होने से क्या होता है सर? दोस्तों, जो जिस रीजन अनस्टेबल रीजन है, उस रीजन तुरंत करोड़ हो जा सकते हैं, तुरंत डैमेज हो सकते हैं. करोजन, ग्राफाइटाइजेशन, डिकम्पोजिशन, ग्रेन ग्रोथ, बोलते बेटा ये सारा कहा जाता है डैमेज मैकेनिज्म. करोजन, ग्रेन ग्रोथ, डिकम्पोजिशन, ग्राफाइटाइजेशन, ये सारा डैमेज मैकेनिज्म तब बनते हैं जब मटेरियल हायर एनर्जी स्टेट में पहुंच जाते हैं. अब क्या हो गया? Grain boundary region has become high energy region. Therefore, it becomes unstable. Therefore, grain boundary region becomes easily corrodable. Oh my God. Compared to what, sir? Compared to grain, sir. Why, sir? Grain में उस compressive influence नहीं रहता है. Inside the grain there is no compressive influence. Because dendrites are meeting only at the surface. Dendrites are not meeting inside the grain. Therefore, the compressive influence is there only at the grain boundary, and the grain boundary is high energy region, therefore easily corrodable region. सुना है ना मेरे तरफ से? कल एग्जाम में जाने के बाद एग्जामिनर पूछता है, for better corrosion resistance, ज़्यादा सा grain boundary रहना है या कम grain boundary रहना है किसी मटेरियल में? बोल, क्या बोलेंगे? If he says more number of grain boundaries रहना है, आप गलत कर रहा है. क्यों? If there are more number of grain boundaries, each grain boundary is high energy area, easily corrodable area. Therefore, fine grain structures are easily corrodable than coarse grain structures. So, if you want to have more corrosion resistance in any application, किसी application में अगर तुम्हारे ज़्यादा corrosion resistance चाहिए, तो उसका grain structure select करना है. Coarse grain structure, why?
क्या लिखा था भाई आयुष? वो बॉट ने उसको लगा कि स्पैम कर रहा था.
Coarse grain structure number of grain boundaries per unit area are less. Means what? High energy regions are less. Means what? Easily corrodable regions are less. Therefore, coarse grain structures will have better corrosion resistance than fine grain structures. Come on, write down. For better corrosion resistance. Write down first. For better corrosion resistance. Coarse grain structures are preferred. resistance. For better corrosion corrosion resistance. Coarse grain structures are preferred. Coarse grain structures are preferred compared to fine grain structures. Fine grain structures compared to fine grain structures. Structures are preferred for better corrosion resistance. Coarse grain structures are preferred for better corrosion resistance. Coarse grain structures are preferred for better corrosion resistance. Coarse grain structures are preferred coarse grain structures are preferred compared to fine grain structures. Fine grain structures compared to fine grain structures. Right. Are you able to get it? Suppose I am now questioning you about a metal rod. Imagine whatever I am showing here. शायद आप नहीं देख सकते हैं because this is also red color. So let me select another thing that is in some other color which you can see. Suppose you imagine this is a metal rod. In this metal rod there are grains as well as grain boundaries. Right? Now, grain boundary is a high energy area, but grains are low energy area. Relatively, because repulsive interaction is there only at the grain boundary. Grain boundaries are high energy area, grains are low energy area. अब मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? I am trying to heat this metal rod. I am trying to heat it to high temperatures. गर्म करने की रास्ता में बोलो बेटा. In boundaries opposed. So, imagine whatever I am showing here. शायद आप नहीं देख सकते हैं because this is also red color. So let me select another thing that is in some other color which you can see. Suppose you imagine this is a metal rod. In this metal rod there are grains as well as grain boundaries. Right? Now, grain boundary is a high energy area, but grains are low energy area. Relatively, because repulsive interaction is there only at the grain boundary. Grain boundaries are high energy area, grains are low energy area. अब मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? I am trying to heat this metal rod. I am trying to heat it to high temperatures. गर्म करने की रास्ता में बोलो बेटा कौन सा वाला region पहले मेल्ट हो जाती है? Which region will first melt away? Is it grain or grain boundary? Huh? Yes, grain boundary. Right? Grain boundary is already high energy region. Therefore, amount of external heat required for melting it will be less. That is the reason why grain boundaries are low melting point regions. Grain boundaries are low melting point regions. बोले तो गर्म करने की metal rods को गर्म करने की process में grain boundaries पहले melt होता है, सबके बाद melt होता है grains. फर्स्ट मेल्ट होने वाला रीजन है ग्रेन बाउंड्री, लास्ट में मेल्ट होने वाला रीजन है ग्रेन. या take is to hit the red rod higher energy bomb. You imagine this is a metal rod. In this metal rod there are grains as well as grain boundaries. Right? Now, grain boundary is a high energy area, but grains are low energy area. Relatively, because repulsive interaction is there only at the grain boundary. Grain boundaries are high energy area, grains are low energy area. अब मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? I am trying to heat this metal rod. I am trying to heat it to high temperatures. गर्म करने की रास्ता में बोलो बेटा कौन सा वाला रीजन पहले? because the orientation of the bricks in these two walls is different. ये दोनों दीवारों का ओरिएंटेशन अलग अलग पाते हैं. Do you now understand my concept? तो जैसा यहाँ पर नाइबरिंग वॉल्स में, नाइबरिंग दीवार में रहने वाला ब्रिक्स का ओरिएंटेशन अलग अलग रहने से दोनों दीवारों का ओरिएंटेशन अलग बन जाएगा. In the same way, because the right side grain and left side grain are having unit cells in different orientation, high temperatures, compared to fine grain structures. Fine grain structures compared to fine grain structures. Right. आगे बढ़ गए. Suppose I am not questioning you about a matter. Imagine whatever I am showing here. शायद आप नहीं देख सकते हैं because this is also red color. So let me select another thing that is in some other color which you can see. Suppose you imagine this is a metal rod. In this metal rod there are grains as well as grain boundaries. Right. Now, grain boundary is a high energy area, but grains are low energy area. Relatively, because repulsive interaction is there only at the grain boundary. Grain boundaries are high energy area, grains are low energy area. अब मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? I am trying to heat this metal rod. I am trying to heat it to high temperature. गर्म करने के रास्ता में बोल रहा है कौन सा वाला रीजन पहले मेल्ट हो जाती है? Which region will first melt away? Is it grain or grain boundary? Huh? Yes, grain boundary. Why? Grain boundary is already high energy region. Therefore, amount of external heat required for melting it will be less. That is the reason why grain boundaries are low melting point regions. Grain boundaries are low melting point regions. बोले तो गर्म करने की मेटल रॉड्स को गर्म करने की प्रोसेस में ग्रेन बाउंड्रीज पहले मेल्ट होता है, सबके बाद मेल्ट होता है ग्रेन्स. फर्स्ट मेल्ट होने वाला रीजन है ग्रेन बाउंड्री, लास्ट में मेल्ट होने वाला रीजन है ग्रेन. याद में रखो. और आगे बढ़ो. दैट इज द रीजन व्हाई वी से दैट ग्रेन बाउंड्रीज आर लो मेल्टिंग पॉइंट रीजंस. लेकिन इसका थोड़ा सा आगे भी डिस्कशन है. ग्रेन बाउंड्रीज आर लो मेल्टिंग पॉइंट रीजंस बोल के जब बोला गया कम ऑन. What I'm trying to draw to microscopic. Huh? Yes, grain boundary, right? Grain boundary is already high energy region, therefore amount of external heat required for melting it will be less. That is the reason why grain boundary. These are low melting point. Regions. Grain boundaries are low melting point regions. बोले तो गर्म करने की मेटल रॉड्स को गर्म करने की प्रोसेस में ग्रेन बाउंड्रीज पहले मेल्ट होता है, सबके बाद मेल्ट होता है ग्रेन्स. फर्स्ट मेल्ट होने वाला रीजन है ग्रेन बाउंड्री, लास्ट में मेल्ट होने वाला रीजन है ग्रेन. याद में रखो. और आगे बढ़ो. दैट इज द रीजन व्हाई वी से that grain boundaries are low melting point regions. लेकिन इसका थोड़ा सा आगे भी डिस्कशन है. Grain boundaries are low melting point regions बोल के जब बोला गया come on. Suppose I am trying to draw two microstructures. This microstructure is at low temperature and I am trying to show you at high temperatures. With high temperatures, I am trying to compare the strength of grains and grain boundaries. I am trying to compare the strength of grains and grain boundaries. If I show some fictitious microstructure here, imagine this is the microstructure of the metal. It shows so many number of grains and grain boundaries in it. So many number of grains and grain boundaries in it. Similarly, this is also a microstructure of some imaginary or fictitious metal. So in grains and grain boundaries, I am only examining the effect of grains and grain boundaries in this diagram. Right. Let me do this. I'll give some space. So, now what is the point that is mentioned here? Grain boundaries are regions of low melting point. So जब मैं high temperature गर्म करता हूँ, गर्म करने में क्या होने वाला है? When I heat it to high temperatures, पहले कौन मेल्ट होता है? Grain boundaries. जो पहले मेल्ट होता है solid state to liquid state पहुँच जाते हैं. When it becomes liquid, its strength will decrease. Therefore, at high temperatures, grain boundaries are weaker because they are melting. Grain boundaries are weaker because they melt away. Whereas when grain boundaries have melted away, grains are still in the solid state. That is why they are relatively more stronger. They are relatively more stronger. Therefore, come on, friends. Suppose At high temperatures, if fractures are taking place, बोलो बेटा, किसी टेम्परेचर में जब फ्रैक्चर होते हैं, फ्रैक्चर इज ऑलवेज हैविंग टू स्टेजेस. नंबर 1, क्रिएशन ऑफ क्रैक, and number 2, propagation of crack. Right? Imagine करो बेटा, crack is initiated. When crack is already initiated, crack will always propagate through weak areas or stronger areas. Crack will always propagate through weaker areas. Yes or no? किसी टेम्परेचर में crack will always propagate through weaker areas only. What are the weaker areas at high temperature? Grain boundaries. So जो high temperatures में होने वाला fracture सेट है, वहाँ पर crack propagation will be through grain boundaries because grain boundaries are weaker areas. So grain boundaries से crack propagation बनते हैं. Let me try to show you here. Grain boundaries से, along the grain boundaries, crack propagation will take place. Along the grain boundaries, crack propagation will take place. Right. Once you have covered that, what is it you have shown here? Crack propagation is taking place through the grain boundaries. You know, when fracture takes place by crack propagation through the grain boundary, such type of fractures are called intergranular fractures. Intergranular fractures or ductile fractures. Intergranular fractures or ductile fractures. So इसको कैसे डिफाइन कर पाएंगे? Intergranular fractures are the fractures which take place by crack propagation through grain boundaries, usually at high temperature. Okay, बोल दिया है. Why at high temperatures through grain boundaries crack will propagate? Because grain boundaries are weaker region. आगे बढ़ो. Now once you have understood this, बेटा, suppose I talk about creep. सुना होगा आपने? Steam turbine blades, for example, steam turbine blades are susceptible to creep fracture. Okay, सुना होगा आपने? Right? Steam turbine blades are susceptible to creep fracture. Now tell me friends, do you know? Creep fractures can take place at all temperatures, not only at high temperatures, but they take place at all temperatures. However, they take place more predominantly at high temperatures. The creep fractures are predominantly high temperature fractures. Look at sentence पढ़ा है subject में. Though they take place at all temperatures, they are predominantly, the creep fractures are predominantly the ones which take place at high temperatures. Therefore, high temperature में होने वाला most of the fractures are creep fractures. Fracture takes place by crack. What are the weaker areas at high? Grain boundaries are weaker. Two microstructures here. Right? First में होने वाला region है grain boundary. Last में होने वाला region है grain. याद में रखो. और आगे बढ़ो. That is the reason why we say that grain boundaries are low melting point regions. लेकिन इसका थोड़ा सा आगे भी डिस्कशन है. Grain boundaries are low melting point regions. बोल के जब बोला गया, come on. Suppose I'm trying to draw two microstructures here. This microstructure is used at low temperature, and I'm trying to show you at high temperatures. At high temperatures, I'm trying to compare the strength of grains and grain boundaries. I'm trying to compare the strength of grains and grain boundaries. So let me try to show some fictitious microstructure here. This is the microstructure of some metal. It shows so many number of grains and grain boundaries in it. So many number of grains and grain boundaries in it. Similarly, this is also a microstructure of some imaginary or fictitious metal. So in grains and grain boundaries, I'm only examining the effect of grains and grain boundaries in this diagram. Right. Let me do this. I'll need some space. So, now what is the point that is mentioned here? Grain boundaries are regions of low melting point. So जब मैं high temperature गर्म करता हूँ, गर्म करने में क्या होने वाला है? When I heat it to high temperatures, पहले कौन मेल्ट होता है? Grain boundaries. जो पहले मेल्ट होता है, solid state to liquid state पहुँच जाते हैं. When it becomes liquid, its strength will decrease. Therefore, at high temperatures, grain boundaries are weaker because they are melting. Grain boundaries are weaker because they melt away. Whereas, when grain boundaries have melted away, grains are still in the solid state. That is why they are relatively more stronger. They are relatively more stronger. Therefore, come on friends. Suppose, at high temperatures, if fractures are taking place, बोलो बेटा, किसी टेम्परेचर में जब फ्रैक्चर होते हैं, fracture is always having two stages. Number 1, creation of crack, and number 2, propagation of crack. Right? Imagine करो बेटा, crack is initiated. When crack is already initiated, crack will always propagate through weak areas or stronger areas. Crack will always propagate through weaker areas. Yes or no? किसी टेम्परेचर में, crack will always propagate through weaker areas only. What are the weaker areas at high temperatures? Grain boundaries. So जो high temperatures में होने वाला fracture सेट है, वहाँ पर crack propagation will be through grain boundaries because grain boundaries are weaker areas. So grain boundaries से crack propagation बनते हैं. Let me try to show you here. Grain boundaries से Along the grain boundaries, crack propagation will take place. Along the grain boundaries, crack propagation will take place. Right. Once you have covered that, what is it you have shown here? Crack propagation is taking place through the grain boundaries. You know, when fracture takes place by crack propagation through the grain boundaries, such type of fractures are called intergranular fractures. Yeah. Intergranular fractures or ductile fractures. Intergranular fractures or ductile fractures. So इसको कैसा डिफाइन कर पाएंगे? Intergranular fractures are the fractures which take place by crack propagation through grain boundaries, usually at high temperature. Okay, बोल दिया. Why at high temperatures through grain boundaries crack will propagate? Because grain boundaries are weaker regions. आगे बढ़ो. Now once you have understood this better, suppose I talk about creep. सुना होगा आपने? Steam turbine blades, for example, steam turbine blades are susceptible to creep fracture. Okay, सुना होगा आपने? Right? Steam turbine blades are susceptible to creep fracture. Now tell me friends, do you know? Creep fractures can take place at all temperatures, not only at high temperatures, but they take place at all temperatures. However, they take place more predominantly at high temperatures. The creep fractures are predominantly high temperature fractures. बोल के एक sentence पढ़ा है subject में. Though they take place at all temperatures, they are predominantly, the fractures, creep fractures are predominantly the ones which take place at high temperatures. Therefore, high temperature में होने वाला most of the fractures है creep fracture. दूसरा sentence क्या बोला? At high temperatures, intergranular fractures will take place. Therefore, creep fractures are intergranular fractures. बोल सकते हैं नहीं? तो जब भी किसी एप्लीकेशन में न्यूक्लियर रिएक्टर्स, गैस टर्बाइन ब्लेड्स, स्टीम टर्बाइन ब्लेड्स, फिलामेंट्स used in bulbs, they are all called as creep elements. They undergo fracture by creep. वैसे वाला एप्लीकेशंस में ग्रेन बाउंड्रीज को ज्यादा रखना है या कम रखना है बोल के डाउट आते हैं. एग्जाम्स में पूछते हैं for more creep resistance, क्या पूछते हैं? For more creep resistance, coarse grain structures are good or fine grain structures are good बोल के पूछते हैं. क्या समाधान देना? If you leave more number of grain boundaries, every grain boundary will melt. It becomes weaker area. If there are more number of grain boundaries, maybe there are more weaker areas, and in such a material, creep resistance will come down. It will readily undergo creep fracture. Therefore, ज़्यादा creep resistance के लिए, for more creep resistance, number of grain boundaries must be reduced. Number of grain boundaries को कम कर देना. When you reduce the number of grain boundaries per unit area, material क्या बनते हैं? वो grain structure. Therefore, come on. जहाँ पर creep resistance के लिए material को selection करना पड़ता है, you must always select the coarse grain structures instead of fine grain structures. Right? Please note down one sentence. For more creep resistance, for more creep resistance, for more creep resistance, for more creep resistance, come on, coarse grain. के लिए मेटेरियल को सिलेक्शन करना पड़ता है फाइन ग्रेन स्ट्रक्चर्स. Put down one sentence. For more creep resistance, for more creep resistance, for more creep resistance, for more creep resistance, comma, coarse grain structures are preferred. Coarse grain structures are preferred. Coarse grain structures are preferred compared to coarse grain structures are preferred compared to fine grain structures. Coarse grain structures are preferred compared to fine grain structures. Right. Now, Mr. Tapanendo Giri, please look at the diagram. Probably you are looking for definition of intergranular fracture better, right? So जैसा जो है मैं यहाँ पर लिख दिया बेटा, मैं definition कहाँ से दे रहा हूँ? Observation करके, observation को sentence का रूप में transform करके कर रहा हूँ. देखो तो, intergranular fractures are the fractures which take place at high temperatures. At high temperatures, grain boundaries are weaker. Therefore, crack propagation will be through the grain boundaries. बोल के जब 3 सेंटेंस दे दिया है, यहाँ से एक डेफिनेशन बनाना. Intergranular fractures are the fractures. बोलो बेटा, देख के बोलो. एक बार आदत बनाते दिया बेटा. अपने आप से आप कर सकते हैं. Intergranular fractures are the fractures which take place by crack propagation through grain boundaries. usually at high temperatures. All right? Right. Come again. So quick play. Go with the same strategy. Sir, अभी भी आप बोल दिया गैस टर्बाइन ब्लेड्स आर आल्सो ससेप्टेबल टू क्रीप फ्रैक्चर. करेक्ट है बेटा. फिर भी अंतर है. What is the difference? Gas turbine blades operate at much higher temperatures than steam turbine blades. That means creep is more dominant in gas turbine blades. तो क्या होगा सर? Like steam turbine blades, if you use oksbi structures in gas turbine blades also, there will be less number of grain boundaries. लेकिन बात क्या है? Operating temperature in gas turbine blades is more. Therefore, even if there is one grain boundary, that one grain boundary will melt away. When that one grain boundary melts away, it becomes crack propagation path. टूट जाएगा gas turbine blade. इसका मतलब क्या है? गैस टर्बाइन ब्लेड्स में एक भी ग्रेन बाउंड्री नहीं रखना है. बोल का मतलब क्या है? ग्रेन बाउंड्रीज को टोटली एलिमिनेट कर देना है. सो गैस टर्बाइन ब्लेड्स आर टू बी मेड आउट ऑफ व्हाट आर कॉल्ड एज सिंगल क्रिस्टल मटेरियल्स. सिंगल क्रिस्टल मटेरियल्स विल हैव जीरो ग्रेन बाउंड्रीज इन देम. ग्रेन बाउंड्रीज को कंप्लीटली एलिमिनेट करना है. ग्रेन बाउंड्रीज को कंप्लीटली एलिमिनेट करने से मिलता है मटेरियल कॉल्ड एज सिंगल क्रिस्टल मटेरियल. राइट डाउन बेटा. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट. फॉर बेटर क्रीप रेसिस्टेंस. राइट डाउन. फॉर बेटर क्रीप रेसिस्टेंस. फॉर बेटर क्रीप रेसिस्टेंस, gas turbine blades are made out of gas turbine blades are made out of single crystal materials. Gas turbine blades are made out of single crystal materials. single crystal materials full stop रख के कंटिन्यू करो. Single crystal materials are single crystal materials are single crystal materials are single crystal materials are the materials having zero grain boundaries in them. Zero grain boundaries in them. They are produced by crystal pulling method. They are produced by crystal pulling method. They are produced by crystal pulling method. Right? The point is concluded. Now get back. बेटा ये सारा डिस्कशन कहां से निकल गया है? All this discussion has come from only one grain boundary characteristics. What is that? Grain boundaries are regions of low melting point temperature. क्या होता? हाई टेम्परेचर जाने में पहले मेल्ट हो जाने वाला रीजन है भाई ग्रेन बाउंड्री. जब पहले मेल्ट हो जाता है हाई टेम्परेचर में वो बन पाएगा क्रैक प्रोपगेशन पाथ. जब वो क्रैक प्रोपगेशन पाथ बन सकते हैं फ्रैक्चर बनाते हैं. फ्रैक्चर होने का कारण बन सकते हैं ग्रेन बाउंड्री. सो हाई टेम्परेचर्स में ग्रेन बाउंड्रीज किसी मेटेरियल में स्ट्रेंथ देने वाला चीज नहीं है. earlier what did you study बेटा? earlier what did you study? यहाँ पर तमाम क्या क्या पढ़ गया था? The number of grain boundaries have increased, movement of dislocations are stopped, and slippies are arrested, resistance to carbon deformation is increased, acceptance are having more strength and hardness than coarse grain structures. That means what? Grain boundaries give strength and hardness. बोल के सुन लिया था, लेकिन अब क्या बोल रहा? देखो मेटेरियल साइंस में हाई टेम्परेचर जाने में क्या होगा? पहले से पहले मेल्ट हो जाने वाला है ग्रेन बाउंड्री. इसका मतलब क्या है? अरे भाई ग्रेन बाउंड्रीज लो टेम्परेचर में ही स्ट्रेंथ और हार्डनेस देता है मटेरियल. हाई टेम्परेचर में ग्रेन बाउंड्रीज का कंट्रीब्यूशन स्ट्रेंथ और हार्डनेस को नहीं रहता. Therefore, coarse grain structures become more stronger than fine grain structures at high temperatures. याद में रख रहे हैं. तो जब भी लोग बोलते हैं इस ऐसा वाला एनालिसिस लिखा के जब लोग बोलते हैं fine grain structures are stronger and harder than coarse grain structures, do you know that sentence is valid only at low temperatures? अब क्या एक्सेप्ट करेंगे या नहीं? क्यों बोलते अभी भी सुना है ये ग्रेन बाउंड्रीज हाई टेम्परेचर जाने में अपना शेप को रिटेन नहीं कर सकता. मेल्ट हो जाएगा वो. जो मेल्ट हो जाते हैं वो स्ट्रेंथ का कंट्रीब्यूशन कैसा देता है? Therefore, grain boundaries will not give strength, contribution to strength and hardness at high temperatures. Grain boundaries give strength and contribution to strength and hardness only at low temperatures. Hence, जो sentence है हमारे साथ, fine grain structures are more stronger and harder than coarse grain structures. क्या बोलूं? It is valid only at low temperatures. लोग क्या बोलते हैं? आधा बोलते हैं, आधा खा लेते हैं. सुनने वाला आधा सुनते हैं, आधा से आधा सुनते हैं. That means 1/4 सुनते हैं. और लिखते हैं 1/8. With 1/8, then he will become IAS officer. We should not be confusing. We should speak more. We should speak more. You should listen more. You should talk more. You should write more. You should get more. Become IAS officer. Be always, leadership always goes with extra mile attitude. Leadership always goes with extra mile attitude. Come on, extra. Can I do better? Can I think better? Can I write faster than my own friends? Can I make a beautiful presentation? Can I add one more beautiful diagram? Can I draw one extra graph? Can I bring about one extra mathematical expression? Can I make a better, presentation? This सारा चीज बेटा, all these small deltas integrated over all the range of our habits make us as a leader. So I know. So fine grain आज से क्या बोलेंगे हम? Fine grain structures are stronger and harder than coarse grain structures. Comma रखे only at low temperatures. That sentence is not valid at high temperature because high temperature में grain boundaries strength और hardness का contribution देने वाला चीज नहीं है. चलो वो देखने के बाद आगे बढ़े. सर ये तो स्टोरी हो गया. हाई टेम्परेचर में जो फ्रैक्चर्स बनता है इंटरग्रानुलर फ्रैक्चर. तो प्री फ्रैक्चर्स आर टेम्परेचर डिपेंडेंट. दे आर थर्मली एक्साइटेड फ्रैक्चर्स. सो हाई टेम्परेचर में प्रेडोमिनेटली बनता है. देयरफॉर प्री फ्रैक्चर्स आर इंटरग्रानुलर फ्रैक्चर्स इन नेचर. सो स्टीम टर्बाइन ब्लेड्स में क्लीन रेजिस्टेंस के लिए कोर्स में सिलेक्शन करना है. बट गैस टर्बाइन ब्लेड्स में यही स्ट्रेटजी यूज नहीं कर सकते हैं. गैस टर्बाइन ब्लेड्स में क्या होगा? ये बिकॉज गैस टर्बाइन ब्लेड्स ऑपरेटेड much higher temperature than in a steam turbine blades, and even if there is one grain boundary that will melt away और टूट जाएगा गैस टरबाइन ब्लेड, उसको टूटने से रोकने के लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा बेटा? एक भी ग्रेन बाउंड्री नहीं रहना है गैस टरबाइन ब्लेड मटेरियल में, बोले तो पूरा से पूरा ग्रेन बाउंड्रीज को एलिमिनेट करना है. If you eliminate ग्रेन बाउंड्रीज, such material को बोलेंगे बेटा, such material is called as single crystal material, right? सुनिए ना, concentrate on that. Suppose I eliminate all the grain boundaries. If I eliminate all grain boundaries, it's called as single crystal material. Now tell me, in a single crystal material, how many grains will be there? How many grains will be there in a single crystal material? When there are zero grain boundaries, पूरा से पूरा material बनेगा single grain. अब सुनो, single crystal material is having single grain. So single crystal material is same as single grain material. बोलो बेटा, तुम्हारा ऑब्जर्वेशन क्या है? Single crystal material is same as single grain material. क्या ऑब्जर्वेशन तुम्हारा? मतलब है, crystal is same as a grain. पता crystal is same as a grain. Single crystal material is same as single grain material. इसका मतलब है crystal is same as a grain. Single crystal material will have only one crystal. It will have only one grain. Right? One crystal material is one grain material. Means crystal is same as a grain. Correct. So single crystal material is having single grain. अगर कोई बोलता है polycrystalline, polycrystalline material में कितने होते हैं grains? Poly means several. This is polycrystalline material or single crystal material? Polycrystalline material. It will have how many grains? Several grains. जहाँ polycrystalline material में बहुत ज़्यादा crystals रहते हैं, बहुत ज़्यादा grains रहते हैं, single crystal material में single crystal रहता है, single grain रहता है, वो तो पहचान क्या है वहाँ? बोलो यार. Crystal is same as a grain. इससे पहले मैं क्या बोला था? Grain is same as a dendrite. Right? अब ये दोनों कंक्लूजन को एक जगह में रख दो. Crystal, grain and dendrite are one and the same. इतने क्वेश्चन क्या है? Differentiate among crystal, grain and dendrite. This is the question. What is the crystal? What is the grain? What is the dendrite? तुम्हारा आंसर क्या रहना है? They are all one and the same. They are all one and the same. Crystal is same as a grain is same as a dendrite. Finish. पता मिला बेटा? Very good. आइए वापस. That's how the story at high temperatures. At low temperatures, come on. At low temperatures, both grains and grain boundaries are in the solid state only. Both grain and grain boundary both are in the solid state. When both are in the solid state, how will you decide which is more stronger and which is relatively weaker? Come on. When both are in the solid state, how will you decide? बेटा, strength का 120 definitions है material science में. In set of materials, in design engineering, in material science, अलग-अलग जगह में आपको अलग-अलग definitions मिलता रहता है. वैसा ये definition बोल रहा है बेटा. और तुम्हारे को मालूम है. Dislocation movement को रोकने की ताकत ही strength है. Ability of the material to stop the movement of dislocations. Ability of the material to stop the movement of dislocations is called strength of the material. बोलो क्या? अपने दो. मैं किसी बार बोल रहा हूँ. शायद आप लिख रहा है. Ability of the material to stop the movement of dislocations. क्या करना? How is it that? मंत्र बोलो. मैं बोल रहा था. 20 बार 25 बार तुम्हारे मेरे साथ बोलना पड़ता है. Come on. When dislocation movement is stopped, slip is arrested. When slip is arrested, resistance to permanent deformation is increased, hence strength and hardness are increased. By stopping dislocations, strength and hardness is increased. Hence, the ability of the material to stop the movement of dislocations is strength or hardness. अब बोल रहा, उस ताकत किसके पास है? That ability is there with grains or with grain boundaries. With grain boundaries, sir. देखिए ना बेटा, earlier analysis में. Come on, let me show you the diagram. Dislocations can move easily through the grain, but dislocations will be stopped by grain boundaries. Dislocations cannot move across grain boundaries because these grain boundaries will stop the movement of dislocations. अब बोलो, dislocation movement को रोकने की ताकत किसके साथ है? Only grain boundaries के साथ है सर. अब बोलो बेटा, तो between grains and grain boundaries, which is more stronger? Grain boundaries are more stronger, therefore the grains are relatively weaker. करता है. तो यहाँ पर क्या बेटा? Using the same logic, I am writing it here. Grain boundaries are stronger at what places? Because dislocation movement को रोकने की शक्ति है. Grains cannot stop the movement of dislocation, therefore they are relatively weaker. Now tell me facts. At low temperatures, क्रैक प्रोपगेशन कहां से बनते हैं? To the weaker regions. What are the weaker regions? The grains. Therefore, at low temperatures, whatever fractures take place, fractures will take place by crack propagation through the grains. Hence, grains को काट करते करते, grains को काट करते करते, crack propagation ऐसा आगे बढ़ेगा. This green color line is indicating crack propagation path. All right. What is this path indicating? The crack propagation path. So crack is propagating by cutting across the grains. Why? Grains are weaker than grain boundaries at low temperatures. And such fractures are called transgranular fractures. Transgranular fractures mean brittle fractures. Transgranular fractures are also called as brittle fractures. Yeah. Join me, friends. Anyone, please find the same thing. How do you define transgranular fracture? Transgranular fractures are the fractures which take place by crack propagation through the grains, usually at low temperatures. Yes or no? Bolo mere saath. Second time. Watch this. Transgranular fractures are the fractures which take place by crack propagation through the grains, usually at low temperatures. Got it? Yeah. So if you have this diagram with you, beta. You can write the story. Observe the diagram. Translate your observation into form of one sentence. Transgranular fractures are fractures which take place by crack propagation through grains, usually at low temperature. Points. Now come again. Now do you observe? So at low temperatures means with reference to what? Earlier आप क्या बोल रहा था? At low temperatures, slip is a mechanism of permanent deformation. At low temperatures, permanent deformation can take place, ductility can be realized. Now, what is it you are doing? At low temperatures, whatever the fractures take place, they are called brittle fractures. Earlier you told, slip is a mechanism of permanent deformation in cold working at low temperatures. Better? For that sentence, reference temperature is recrystallization temperature. Right? So, at temperatures less than recrystallization temperature, the permanent deformation which takes place is known as a slip. Right? Similarly here, at low temperature means, is it the same as that or not, sir? No, better. The reference temperature for this discussion on fracture is not recrystallization temperature. It is called as equicohesive temperature. Right now, equicohesive temperature. Equicohesive temperature. Equicohesive temperature is defined as equicohesive temperature. Is defined as equicohesive temperature. Is defined as the temperature at which both grains and grain boundaries are equally stronger. At which both grains and grain boundaries are equally stronger. Right? At which both grains and grain boundaries are equally strong. Now look here. When I say low temperature, I mean at temperatures less than equicohesive temperature. That's the meaning of low temperatures. Similarly, when I say at high temperatures, I mean at temperatures more than equicohesive temperature. At temperatures more than equicohesive temperature, intergranular fractures will take place. So friends, keep it in your mind. That is, for slip, for permanent deformation, reference temperature is recrystallization temperature. For discussion on fracture, reference temperature is equicohesive temperature. equicohesive temperature में क्या होता? Both grains and grain boundaries के साथ same strength रहता है. At temperatures less than equicohesive temperature, grain boundaries are stronger. At temperatures more than equicohesive temperature, grains are relatively more stronger than the grain boundaries. So ये बात नजर में रखने से तुम्हारे mind में confusion नहीं बनता, clarity मिलता है. All right. Now having seen this, here aspects related to fracture that are connected to the characteristics. Let me talk about next one. Sir, fourth characteristic of grain boundary score. This most depth is equal lines, right? Which are equally stronger. Right? At which both grains and grain boundaries are equally strong. Now look here. When I say low equicohesive temperature में क्या होता? Both grains and grain boundaries के साथ same strength रहता है. At temperatures less than equicohesive temperature, grain boundaries are stronger. At temperatures more than equicohesive temperature, grains are relatively more stronger than the.
बढ़िया एक नंबर. अभी मैंने थोड़ा लाइटिंग का सेटअप चेंज किया तो अभी कैसा लुक आ रहा लाइटिंग का, लाइट कैसी लग रही.
So ये बात नजर में रखने से तुम्हारे माइंड में कंफ्यूज नहीं बनता, क्लैरिटी मिलता है. All right. Now having seen this, here aspects related to fracture that are connected to the characteristics. Let me talk about next one. Sir, fourth characteristic of grain boundaries. Grain boundaries are regions of heavy impurity concentration. Friends, you must be knowing that whenever I talk about the characteristics of grain boundaries, all these characteristics come from metal casting subjects. In metal casting subject, the term impurity, impurity does not mean foreign atoms here in metal casting. Slag inclusions, oxide impurities, dross, go to jobs in there, they are the impurities. These oxide impurities, slag inclusions, dross, which are all called as impurities, they are lighter in density and lower in melting point. They are lighter in density and lower in melting point than the base metal. That's the reason why they always get accumulated along the grain boundaries. They always get accumulated along the grain boundaries. So what, sir? When they get accumulated along the grain boundaries, we say that grain boundaries are the regions of heavy impurity concentration. Okay. What is going to be the consequence? When impurities are accumulated along the grain boundaries, these impurities will work like corrosion agents. They work like corrosion agents. Tell me, friends, what type of regions are grain boundaries? High energy regions, sir. Means what? Easily corrodable regions, sir. Who is going to grain boundaries? Impurities, sir. What type of materials are impurities? Corrosion agents, sir. इसका मतलब क्या है भाई? Corrosion बनने वाला region, life region को corrosion करने वाला जरा. Got point? Grain boundaries are easily corrodable, and impurities which are corrosion agents, they are going to grain boundaries. So what can happen is, intergranular corrosion will take place. Due to corrosion, what is going to happen, sir? All useful properties will be damaged and all useless properties will be improved. What do you do with such a material? It becomes useless for any design applications. So मैं क्या करना सर? Design the gating system elements properly. बेटा इसी के बाद से तुम्हारा casting subject में एक chapter है elements of gating system and their design. Design the gating system elements properly. What for, sir? To eliminate the entry of impurities into the motor cavity. Eliminate the impurities by proper designing of gating system elements. Otherwise, there is no way you can protect the casting from damage. Is the point here? That's why we said grain boundaries are regions of heavy impurity. Next, grain boundaries are regions of amorphous nature. Why, sir? Come on. I told you earlier, grain boundaries are the regions, they are the junctions between two randomly growing dendrites. Right? Will take place. Due to corrosion, what is going to happen, sir? All useful agents, sir. Who is going to grain boundaries? Impurities, sir. They work like corrosion agents. What is going to be the consequence? Well, accumulated along the grain boundaries. These oxide impurities, slag inclusions, drops, which are all called as impure. वो जो बोलते हैं, impurity does not mean foreign atom shear in metal casting. Slag inclusions, oxide impurities, drops, वो जो आप सुनते हैं बेटा, they are the impurities. These oxide impurities, slag inclusions, drops, which are all called as impurities, they are does not mean foreign atom shear in metal casting. Slag inclusions, oxide impurities, dross वो भी they are the impurities. These oxide impurities, slag inclusions, drops, which are all called as impurities, they are lighter in density and lower in melting point. They are lighter in density and lower in melting point than the base metal. That's the reason why they always get accumulated along the grain boundaries. Always get accumulated along the grain boundaries. So what, sir? When they get accumulated along the grain boundaries, we say that grain boundaries are the regions of heavy impurity concentration. Okay. What is going to be the consequence? When impurities are accumulated along the grain boundaries, these impurities will work like corrosion agents. They work like corrosion agents. Tell me, friends, what type of regions are grain boundaries? High energy regions, sir. Means what? Easily corrodable regions, sir. Who is going to grain boundaries? Impurities, sir. What type of materials are impurities? Corrosion agents, sir. इसका मतलब क्या है भाई? Corrosion बनने वाला region, like region को corrosion करने वाला जा रहा है. Got the point? Grain boundaries are easily corrodable, and impurities which are corrosion agents, they are going to grain boundaries. So what can happen is intergranular corrosion will take place. Due to corrosion, what is going to happen, sir? All useful properties will be damaged. All useless properties will be improved. What do you do with such a material? It becomes useless for any design applications. तो मैं क्या करना सर? Design the gating system elements properly.
मारना भाई स्विंग को
Is improved. What do you do with such a material? It becomes useless for any design applications. तो मैं क्या करना सर? Design the gating system elements properly. बेटा, इसे तो मैं क्या करना सर? Design the gating system elements properly. इसी के वास्ते तुम्हारा कास्टिंग सब्जेक्ट में एक चैप्टर है एलिमेंट्स ऑफ गेटिंग सिस्टम एंड देयर डिजाइन. Design the gating system elements properly. What for, sir? To eliminate the entry of impurities into the mold cavity. Eliminate the impurities by proper design of gating system. Otherwise, there is no way you can protect the casting from damage. Is the point clear? That's why we said grain boundaries are regions of heavy impurity concentration. Next, grain boundaries are regions of amorphous nature. Why, sir? Come on.
चालू क्यों नहीं हो रहा?
I told you earlier, grain boundaries are the regions, they are the junctions between two randomly growing dendrites, right? When two dendrites meet each other, the junction between these two dendrites becomes the grain boundary. Right? Suppose I want you to make a small demonstration here. So, can you see your hand? Is it a perfectly smooth and plain surface or is uneven? Your palm is uneven surface. Left hand, palm is uneven surface. So you can imagine these two hands as two dendrites. When two dendrites meet each other, their junction becomes a grain boundary. So, okay, sir, these are the two dendrites that are meeting each other. Two uneven bodies meeting each other. Right? Now expose this particular junction to light in your room. Expose this junction to light in your room. Are you able to see some gaps between the two hands or not? Yes or no? You're able to see some gaps between the two hands? Huh? Because nobody's two palms are perfectly plain surface. Therefore, 100% surface to surface contact will not happen. Two uneven surfaces, when they meet each other, there will be gaps between. Those gaps are called as voids. Come on, friends. You're able to see the gaps between your two hands? They are called as voids between the dendrites. So at the grain boundary, come on, at the grain boundary, there will not be perfect meeting of the two dendrites. So what happens? Between the two dendrites, at the grain boundary, there will be void spaces. Now tell me, in the void spaces, will there be atoms or no atoms? No atoms, sir. That's why you call them as voids. When there are no atoms, can you maintain three-dimensional long-range periodic arrangement? Not possible. That means you cannot maintain crystallinity order at the grain boundaries. You cannot maintain crystallinity order at the grain boundaries. That is the reason why grain boundaries are regions of amorphous nature. There are no atoms, spaces. Now tell me, in the void spaces, will there be atoms or no atoms? No atoms, sir. That's why you call them as voids. When there are no atoms, can you maintain three-dimensional long-range periodic arrangement? No. Possible. That means you cannot maintain crystallinity order. grain boundaries. You cannot maintain crystallinity order at the grain boundaries. That is the reason why grain boundaries are regions of amorphous nature. The reason why grain boundaries are regions of amorphous. Is the point clear to you? Exactly. Same thing was asked in the Barking review. Are there amorphous regions within crystalline materials? Are there amorphous regions within crystalline materials? What's your answer? Yes, sir. What are they? Grain boundary regions, sir. Are there amorphous regions within crystalline materials? What's your answer? Yes, sir. What are they? Grain boundary region is a mark. Region. Got your answer? Fine. Any answer? Yes, sir. What are they? Grain boundary region is a mark. Region. Got your answer? Fine. That is about the grain boundary. So today we will complete only up to the grain boundaries and the characteristics. The rest of the circle effects will be planned for the next day. So in the meantime, let me take some 5 minutes of time and then try to give you the answers for the workbook questions. Wherever any controversy arises, I try to help you to resolve the controversy in future. But the workbook is already uploaded. Just let me give you the answers of topic number 1. Quickly write down answers of topic number 1. Topic number 1, crystallography. Topic 1, basics of crystallography. Basics of crystallography. But answers to workbook questions. Answers to workbook questions. You can quickly copy down in 5 minutes of time and try out. Any controversy, definitely I'll try to help you. So, wherever you end up with any difficulty, come on. Question number and answer are being given here. Yeah, question number 1, answer A. Question number 2, answer B. Some of them, or at least a good number of them, 90% of them, 95% of them, you will be able to solve without my help because I am covering the concerned concepts in the chair. 2B. Then 3, third question, answer is C. Fourth question, answer is C. Fifth question, answer B. Then question number 6, answer is C. Question number 7, answer is B. Question number 8, answer is C. Question number 9, answer is C. Question number 10, answer is D. Then question number and answer are being given. Question number 11, answer is B. Question number 12, answer is B for Bombay. Question number 13, B for Bombay. Question number 14, A for Agra. Question number 15, B for Bombay. Question number 16, B for Bombay. Question number 17, A for Agra. Question number 18, C for Calcutta. Question number 19, A for Agra. And question number 20, the answer is C for Calcutta. Next. Question number and answer choice are being given here. 21. Answer A. Question number 22. C for Calcutta. 23. B for Bombay. 24. Say B for Bombay. 25. C for Calcutta. 26 is a multi-select question. So B, C, D, all the three choices are right. Question number 27 is a fill up the blank type of question. Answer is 0.6124 in the blank. Question number 28 is a fill up the blank type of question. 3416.2 or 0.26, yes. And question number 29 is a multiple select question. A, B, and C are the correct choices. Question number 30. A, B, and C are the three correct answers. Question number 31. A and T are the two correct choices. That completes the answer giving for all the questions of topic number 1. Try to solve them, and you will be, wherever you have any difficulty, raise it in the class. I will try to work out based on the availability of time. Alright, now it is the time for doubt session. Feel free, you can ask me doubts.
Bye bye. Stream over. Bye bye.